Hello, my name is Hannah and I'm a teacher from Twinkl. Thanks for joining me for daily reading. This is the fourth in a series of 10 videos where we've been reading a story called Jazz Harper, Space Explorer. Each day we're reading a chapter of the story and then we're working on some reading skills. I'm going to be asking you some questions throughout the video, so if you'd like to write your answers down, you'll need a piece of paper, or click on the link in the description below to download an activity pack. You can type onto the activity sheet in that pack, or you could print it out. If you've been reading along with the story so far, the first thing I'd like you to do is pause the video and discuss with someone or have a think to yourself about what you can remember about the story so far. Ready? In the story so far, we've met a girl called Jazz. Jazz and her mum have left Jazz's gran behind on Earth to live on Mars for 5 years. The first colonies of humans are beginning to live and work there, and on the 4-month journey to Mars, Jazz makes a friend called Elijah, and along with his sister Ellie Mae, they make up games to entertain themselves and imagine what school on Mars might be like. This book is filled with documents like letters, emails, diary extracts and news articles to help the reader understand what life is like in the year 2060. In an email to her gran, Jazz has just explained what landing on Mars was like, and Gran replied with an email all about hypothermia. Today we're going to read Jazz's diary from chapter 3. If you haven't read the emails at the start of chapter 3 yet, it's a good idea to pause the video now and use the link in the description to read those emails first. Chapter 3 is called Welcome to the Marineris Colony. Today, while we're reading, we're going to be looking out for something called pronouns. Let's get started. Sol 41, Mars year 57. Dear Diary, whoops, I've been so busy landing on Mars and being monitored by the medical team in case I accidentally turn to jelly that I forgot all about writing in my adventure diary. There is so much to describe that I don't know where to start. I guess that I should really start with the most amazing thing, the colony toilets. They're real toilets which you can really flush. They have proper seats like the ones on Earth, rather than just a hole in a teeny plastic frame, and you don't need to worry about floating away. I can't explain how much I've missed real toilets. Then there's the gravity. The gravity on Mars feels as if it's not really trying. Elijah says that it's because it's only around 40% as strong as Earth's gravity. If you throw something up, it always takes longer than you expect to fall back down. Thanks to the gravity, though, I can see that my hair has grown quite a lot since leaving Earth. When it just floats around your head in space, you hardly even notice it, but now that gravity is pulling it back down, I have to keep brushing it out of my eyes. I can't wait to get it all cut. Perhaps they'll have special Martian stylists who can give me a cool alien hairdo. We've been here 5 sols now. A sol is like a Mars day, only Martian sols are 37 minutes longer than Earth days because Mars takes 24 hours and 37 minutes to spin on its axis. Did you know that Mars years are longer too? Said Elijah as we were lying around in the medical bay feeling bored. I told him that I did know actually because it was in the training, but this didn't stop Elijah. As I said, he just likes telling people facts. But did you know that they are nearly twice as long as Earth years? Yes. It's because Mars takes nearly twice as long to orbit the Sun as the Earth does, he rambled on. Before I turn over, I'd like to pause and talk to you about pronouns. Look at this last paragraph. It's because Mars takes nearly twice as long to orbit the Sun as the Earth does, he rambled on. In this sentence, who does he refer to? Pause the video and write down who you think the author means by he. Well done. The only 2 people in this conversation are Jazz and Elijah. He is a pronoun, and in this case, it means Elijah. Pronouns are short words that we use instead of people's names. Stop the video again and write down as many pronouns as you can think of. Well done. Let's keep reading. Yes, I know. I bet you don't know why it's the year 2060 on Earth, but on Mars it's the year 57. He was right there. I didn't even know that it was the year 57 on Mars. How come? Elijah's face goes all happy and animated when you ask him to explain facts. In 1956, before humans had ever been into space, scientists noticed a large dust storm on Mars. When they started sending spacecraft to explore Mars, they decided that Mars needed its own calendar. They picked the year of the dust storm to be year 1 and kept counting up from that. Now that I know about Mars's calendar, I've decided to record the date in my diary in Mars years instead of Earth years. After all, I live on Mars now. Yesterday, the medics told us that our bodies had finally got used to the idea of gravity again, so it was safe to go on a tour of the colony. It's huge. We saw the oxygen plant and the water treatment facility, which are outside on the surface and connected to the rest of the colony by corridors. We also stopped for a moment at the greenhouse, but I barely had time to take in the jungle of plants and trees before we were off again. We loped down these long, gloomy hallways until we were deep underground. Most of the colony is underground to shield us from the sun's radiation, since Mars doesn't have a protective atmosphere like Earth does. We saw the bustling labs, heard the clang of dinner cooking in the canteen, and stopped by the communications room to see where we could read and send mail. By the end of the tour, I was getting used to the strange way in which you have to walk on Mars. Basically, you have to walk more slowly than on Earth and you bounce a bit. You move just like an excited puppy. Running is fun too because you bound up and down with each step. It's a bit like running on a trampoline. At the end of the tour, we reached the living quarters. They're set right back in the rock of the Valles Marineris, furthest from the sun's glare. It's like living in a giant underground hotel without room service. There are lots and lots of numbered doors, and behind each door is a little flat where someone lives with their flatmates or family. Ours is number 140, and Elijah's is number 152, which is only round one corner. The living quarters are very small, very plain, and of course there are no windows. But we soon made it feel like home. Mum brought our favourite blankets from home, and she had printed out some pictures of home to hang on the walls. There's a photo of my last birthday, when Gran made the biggest chocolate fudge cake, and Mum filled our house with star-shaped balloons. There's a photo of Gran on her scooter, riding through Sunset Heights. She's wearing her explorer gear, and she looks like she's on safari, but the only wildlife in sight is a puzzled squirrel. There's a photo of me and Mum on the beach. Instead of sunbathing, we went to explore the caves and rock pools. On that day, I found 2 sea anemones, 6 sea snails, and a tiny green crab. Once we'd finished decorating, we went to the canteen for a meal of algae stew and fried cockroaches, which was surprisingly delicious. I had only just started to feel hungry again. Since arriving here, my stomach had felt really funny, and the medic said that our digestive systems had to get used to the weight of themselves again after floating around in space for so long. Then Mum took me to the greenhouse. She said that there was something she wanted to show me. The greenhouse on Mars isn't like the greenhouse at the bottom of our garden on Earth. It's a big glass dome which stretches in every direction. There are rings of vegetable patches covering the ground, growing almost all the food that we eat on Mars. It's the closest thing the colony has to a park. We went right to the edge of the greenhouse, where we could stare out of the glass onto the Marineris Valley, which stretched away to the horizon. It was beautiful. The land was all flat and dusty, and we could see for miles. The soil was a burnt orange, sprinkled with pebbles, rocks, and boulders. Here and there dust was quickly whipped into the air, then suddenly dropped back down to the floor. In the distance I could make out the tips of the coppery mountain peaks. The sky was a deep red-orange, and the ridges of the valley walls cast dark shadows. "Whoa!" I gasped. "This is the most beautiful view I've ever seen." "Just wait," Mum smirked. That's when I saw something unbelievable. The sun sank in the sky. As it got lower, something wonderful started to happen. Everything changed colour. The fiery sky was washed away and replaced by a deep blue. It reminded me of watching waves running up the beach back home on Earth. Within a few minutes, almost the whole sky was lit by a blue light. Mum grinned at my shocked face and explained that Mars's sunsets are blue because of the thinner Mars atmosphere and the dust particles. It even made the sun look pink. I snuggled up to Mum. It was all so incredible. After the sun had completely disappeared, we went home. Mum says that I need to get a good night's sleep, but I don't know if I can. I'm much too excited. Tomorrow is my first day of Mars school. That's the end of chapter 3. Before we go, I'd like to have one more look at pronouns. Take a look at the paragraph that starts on page 50 and ends on page 51. There are lots of pronouns in this paragraph. There's a copy of this paragraph in the activity sheet that you can download, or you could write it down. Then I'd like you to underline all of the pronouns that you can find. Remember, a pronoun is a short word that replaces somebody's name. Pause the video now to underline each of the pronouns in this paragraph. Well done. There are many pronouns in that paragraph. Just download the activity pack to find out all the answers. That's the end of chapter 3. There are more questions and activities that you can do after watching the video. Just click the link in the description to download the activity pack. Join me next time for chapter 4, where we'll be looking at what the text looks like on the page and what this tells us. See you then.